Warning, this episode contains brain food that will lead to improved emotional and social intelligence. Thanks for tuning in to Harvesting Happiness today for a healthy serving of consciously prepared brain food. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen, your host. For more than 13 years, I've been handcrafting these sound ideas for better well-being. Each week, I love spotlighting diverse thinkers and doers who are contemporary trendsetters and change agents, devoting their lives to creating a better world in which to live. I invite you to listen up and change the way you think about human happiness. Our award-winning content is fresh, optimistic, and purpose-driven media that promotes well-being from the inside out. Alrighty then, let's dive in. This episode offers psychosocial education designed to inspire and motivate our listeners. The information provided does not constitute a therapeutic relationship nor a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, call 911, go to your nearest emergency room, or for listeners in the United States, text 988 for the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Just a heads up, listeners, if you hear a little pounding of construction noise, it's because there's a garage being built on the other side of this studio. I've waited 5 years for it, so I couldn't postpone the guys. Enjoy the show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me on today's show, where you will learn about maximizing change management through kindness. My guest today is James Rhee, who is a high school teacher and Harvard Law School graduate turned private equity investor and CEO. James' leadership story grabbed global attention during his unlikely 7-year tenure as chairman and first-time CEO of Ashley Stewart. After his radical and yet intuitive approach fueled a transcendent and unprecedented reinvention story for the company, James concretized his leadership philosophy and operating system. Kindness plus a little math in the form of a red helicopter, his media education platform. He bridges math with emotions by marrying capital with purpose while composing systems that bridge peoples, disciplines, and ideas. His transformational leadership has been recognized by leading civic and business organizations. And we're talking about his book, Red Helicopter, A Parable for Our Time, Lead Change with Kindness plus a little math. Welcome, James. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so happy you're here because I feel like you and I share a common space of leading with kindness. And that is what I want to talk with you about. You know, kindness being counterintuitive to what many people think is the powerhouse of change.
That would be great. I'm looking forward to it. I think a lot of people are craving this and they sort of know intuitively it's right. And then they're taught that it's counterintuitive. And so maybe you and I, after this conversation, we can reassure everyone that they are indeed right.
It's maybe the old adage, nice guys finish last. I don't think that's true. I think nice guys and gals finish first.
I do too. And I think and maybe we'll talk about it, but I think kind people finish first. And that distinction between niceness and kindness is maybe something we can spend some time talking about.
Yes, let's do that. First of all, let's talk about how, in your experience, you have operationalized kindness.
Yeah, like I have a bizarre background.
I know you do.
Yeah, like I'm a hot mess, right? So I'm 50 plus years old and I've been a lifelong learner, high school teacher. I think in essence, I'm a teacher. And I think a lot of teachers generally are pretty enthusiastic learners. I tend to learn something and then I get very excited and I want to share it and say, hey, this is cool. You should learn this too. And so, yeah, I've just done a lot of different things like in, private equity and as a law student. But at heart, I'm a teacher. And I'm the person who went to law school thinking that he would be a public defender. So I'm just an advocate for people. That's sort of my personality. And sometimes in the private sector, it's helpful to know how to be facile with money because you can use money to help amplify or accelerate some of the change that you want to make on behalf of people.
Well, let's talk about your unique foray into leading a company, becoming a CEO? Because that's a bit different.
Yeah, I was at a point in my life. This was maybe, really, it started 15 years ago. I was living I think, a pretty linear vertical path. I think partly fueled by, in fairness, like, wanting to make my parents happy too. They immigrated here. And so I was doing a lot of things that were on the surface, quote, very, quote, successful, right? But I always fought that. After I graduated college, I taught high school for 12 grand a year. Money's not been a driver for me. And so I was at a point in my life, this was 10, 15 years ago, when things came to a head. I was a father, and I'm looking at my children, and my dad's dying. And I had just had a lot of things to think about. What's success? What do I want my life to be like? What do I want my children to remember me by? Because I remember my parents giving up and investing so much of their life caring for people. They just did. And they thought that they weren't, quote, successful. And I thought they were. It took me, at that point in my life, I just said, you've lived such a, quote, rich life. And so there I was. So I was in Boston, still in Boston, like doing private equity and just sort of master of universe type thing. And I had no intention of being a CEO of any company, let alone a company serving, a group of women that on the surface had nothing in common with me, right? They were Black women and fashionable Black women in urban neighborhoods across the country. And here I was, a Korean American guy, private equity in Boston in tall buildings. But that's where I was. And that's sort of where it just came at an inflection point in my life that the women really bore a lot of resemblance in my more mature mind to my mother, actually. Like, I really admired the way that they persevered. They were hardworking. They took care of a lot of people. They didn't ask for credit. They did it because they did it. There was a real strong sense of mutualism amongst this community. And obviously, as you know, that mutualism is very few pools of that left, it seems. And I admired them. And I knew the company was suffering, and we know why. Like, this was not a darling of Wall Street. This was not going to get the best attention. So all of these things came into like a big, like, bouillabaisse. And I walked away from my life in Boston to sort of be an unlikely friend to a group of women that ultimately became some of my closest friends.
I love this story, because it's about doing the right thing, seeing an opportunity to do the right thing for others.
It really, I say this, it's been 4 years since I, was involved with the company, but during those 7 years, and as you know, from having read the book, it was supposed to be 6 months, but I stayed 7 years because no one showed up. I thought people would come help me. They didn't, other than a couple people in the beginning. But those 7 years, I really think that, as flawed a person as I am, and like everyone, so many flaws, make mistakes, and ego this, and insecure this. I really think that for those 7 years, I was about as good a version of me as I possibly could be. I really was. Like, I just really thought, I was really creative. I was really thinking about their best interests. Like, I felt unstoppable because of it, right? I just was like, I know that I just want them to win. Like, I just really had that mindset. I want her to be able to just be and win on her terms and just like be. And I know where it's coming from. I mean, I had those feelings and I suppressed them for a long time. I felt that way about my mom for her entire life. That sometimes she was made to feel very small in this country sometimes. And I didn't like it. Yeah. And so she would always put everything into me to sort of compensate. And I didn't like that either. I'm like, like, as far as I can tell, to this day, still, she's the best leader I've ever met in my life, my mother. I've been around, quote, a lot of great leaders. I don't think that any of them hold a candle to my mom.
That's quite a tribute, As you're speaking, I'm hearing this story is an incredibly creative process. And you and I talked a little bit about how running a business is creative. It is artful. It's not something that is exclusive to the classic arts. It requires so many skills on so many levels to do it well.
Yeah, this was a business, just to address the creativity, like on the surface of it, it was a 22-year-old, twice bankrupt, failed clothing business with retail stores, no Wi-Fi for plus-size Black women, like on the surface of it. And so if you're not creative and you're just content to sort of see things at face value, which unfortunately with tech these days as well, like the stimuli, we're all sort of primed to do that. I didn't see it that way. I just looked at the business differently and I said, oh, I don't think that this is a business at all. In fact, it was losing money. So it was basically a not-for-profit by accidentally. But I just said, I don't think that's what it is. I think that it's like a citadel, like a sanctuary. It's like a place where these group of women who take care of a lot of people, put everyone in first a lot, they can just sort of be a little bit self-indulgent and sort of take off their armor and just be. And I saw it not in a spreadsheet or in words. I was physically there watching. And I'm like, oh, this reminds me of when my mom, like the one time a year, she would go get like Korean food at a Korean grocery store and she could speak fluent Korean, like the confidence in her neckline and her shoulders. I'm like, I know that look. Like, this is like your place. Yeah. And so I wanted to tell that story and like have everyone see what I saw, because not a lot of people were visiting like from Wall Street to see that.
Oh, I would think not, at least at that time.
And so I just said to, the world, and they kind of laughed at me, but the women got it. I just said, why don't we just create a world and just amplify it? You already have that world in your 3,500 square foot place. We'll just create it on a really big basis and we'll see what people think.
You know what's so interesting is that when you think about the demographic that the company serves, I'm just even talking about plus size, right? That is huge. That is a very large, normal segment of the population. And so I can see how helping to amplify this message of like beauty and strength and feeling right in your own skin, like that's beautiful work right there.
It was wonderful. And that's, I remember the first town hall, I was testing everyone. I do that a lot. I ask these open-ended questions, like, what do you think? So I would ask, what do you think the product is of this company? And everyone looked at me like, okay, like,
oh, really? Duh. Skeptical?
Well, it's clothes. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that's the product. That's like the delivery mechanism. That's not the product. The product is this connectedness. It's a friendship. It's a state of being. And and from that was, people said, oh, okay, like a small part of the room. And that was about the same time that this first-time CEO private equity guy also said, the way that we can operationalize this, we have to center kindness and math. Because if we can do that well, the natural product from those two things will be a sustainable ecosystem that allows for this connectedness and for friendship to flourish, that we had to do both. And I remember saying this, I'm like, where is this coming from? Right? You have to, private equity guy, I'm showing up and I'm like,
well, you're at the suit.
Yeah, I wasn't, I was a little bit better. Come on, a little bit better, but not that much better. Like, definitely not full blue suit, but blue blazer and like super starched khaki pants. Picture the Boston private equity outfit.
And these women were everything but that, I'm sure.
Totally. Absolutely. And your listeners, I don't think they can see my face. Like, I'm a man, I have an Asian face. Okay. And so like with big dimples, like, so all of these things, and, it's like, it was very freeing. And it's, like for me to sort of have any pretense to say anything other than the fact that I need help. I've never done this before. Please tell me like how you can help. Like I don't, if I came in there like a lot of leaders do, right, and say, well, I've done this, I went to this school, I've how laughable is that, right? So I listened. It was forced listening, like, and so I just absorbed. Like I didn't even know what a peplum was, right, or like a shark bite, and I'm like, what? I was like, oh, it's called a shark bite. I got it. Like,
What is a shark bite?
it's like that long, long top where they take. There's a big shark bite out of the side of it.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah. It's
So
like
it's skin on the sides?
it's skin,
Or it's, oh, okay.
or it doesn't
fabric.
have to show full skin, right? It can be longer, like it can have a shark bite on a long blouse. I can't believe I'm talking about blouses with you. Anyway, so
Okay. This is a happiness podcast, a positive psychology podcast. So I can't believe we're talking about shark bites, and I'm curious about it. So it's good. It's good. We're both learning.
yeah, it was just one of these things. It was like a really, very freeing from. It was scary in a little bit in the sense that I, when we talk about self-identity, I walked away from everything that I had built my identity based on, right? My professional identity. I was alone. I was away from my family. I was away from my identity. And in some ways, though, it was very, not just freeing, but very comforting. Like I really found me again, actually, like the public school, high school kid. I grew up, first, I'm like I'm a born here, but like, went to public school and it's fun. Long Island. I had no expectations, no credentials. It was very freeing and I felt like myself again. I'm a pretty good laugher. Like I found my sense of humor again.
Clearly.
Like I was really having, it's just, and I'm a bit of a suppressed musician, right? So like and one of the, people often say, they're like, wow, you did such great things for, these women, your friends. I said, I think I got the better end of the bargain in the sense that they really gave me back myself. Like I will forever be appreciative that they accepted me, actually, right? They're like, first time CEO, you're not Black, you're not female, you dress like crap. You don't know what the heck you're talking about. But you talk about kindness and math, and they really had a lot of reasons why to reject me, and they really didn't. And so it felt good, and it still feels good, right? Like real friends, actually.
Well, what comes to mind is this sort of state of reciprocity, right? Like you were there trying to help them get the company profitable. And in a certain sense, the process was bringing you home to yourself. It's kind of cool.
Yes, it really was cool. And it wasn't like I was fully cognizant and conscious of this in the moment. All I knew was that I felt crystal clear as to why I was there. I just didn't want them to fail. It just was so simple. And then I wanted to go home, and I stayed because no one else, I had to end up staying because I was the right person, ironically, to do this because my intent, I cared, and my intent was that intense and clear. And I also had an untapped skill set, right? Like I was weirdly good at
You could do it.
I could do it. And they gave me permission to do it.
Yeah.
Right? They gave me permission to do it. And all this helped me get back to, I think the biggest gift they gave me, I don't want to spoil the book, but it's sad. There's unfortunately death in the book. Both my parents die. But they really helped me understand and appreciate my parents. It was, and I think that your listeners, it will be a tough read in certain chapters, like when they came to support me when my parents died without me asking, I can't repay them for that.
Well, this kindness loop It's sort of was it the Rizar, that the effect when you throw a stone in the water and then it's got the circles around it, right? That the
Yes. Well,
kindness
that's the cover of the book.
Oh, yes.
It's not just that's not just the
helicopter.
It is that, but it's also meant to simulate the ripple effects in water and real like fractal geometry, where one very small act
Yeah.
and the reciprocity that it entails, it starts creating sustainable ripples.
We should take a break. And when we come back, we can continue to talk about the mathematical equation of change management, because we're really talking about, it's like kindness plus a little math equals success. Let's take the pause. To learn more about James Rhee and his book, Red Helicopter, please go to redhelicopter.com. You can find him on X at I am James Rhee, and on LinkedIn, he's over there at James Charles Rhee. Here comes the pause. We'll be right back. Wait. Before we pause, here's a loving summer self-care reminder. With warm weather and outdoor activities, we need to protect our hair and scalp along with our skin. Remember, just like our skin, the condition of our hair reflects our overall health, both external and internal factors that can impact the way our hair looks, feels, and grows. And that's why I love and use Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. Thinning is different for men and women, and that's why Nutrafol has 5 formulas for different lifestyles, including plant-based diets. Nutrafol is tailored to what your hair needs based on biology to grow. Take their hair wellness quiz at Nutrafol.com for a personalized plan based on your specific root causes. Physician formulated with drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within to multi-target the key root causes of thinning, including stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism, all through whole body health. In clinical studies, 86% of women saw improved growth after taking Nutrafol for 6 months, and 72% of men saw more scalp coverage after 6 months. I've been using Nutrafol religiously for more than 2 years. My hair is shedding less and feels thicker as well as healthier because of Nutrafol. And remarkable bonus benefits include better sleep, improved stress response, and a significant reduction of those pesky menopause symptoms, including hot flashes. No matter your lifestyle or stage of life, Nutrafol is a great solution that targets the root causes of thinning and supports hair growth from within. Building a hair growth routine is simple with Nutrafol through easy online purchasing, no prescriptions or doctor's visits required. Free shipping and automated deliveries ensure you'll never miss a day, and you'll see results within 3 to 6 months. Get results you can run your fingers through. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code HH. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code HH. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code HH. Let's take that break. We'll be right back. Each day we have the intellectual freedom to be happy or the liberty to be miserable, regardless of external circumstance. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, seek support, because good psychological health is vital in the achievement of a happy and satisfying life. Visit harvestinghappiness.com for psychosocial educational resources to boost emotional and social intelligence. Like what you hear on Harvesting Happiness? Sharing is caring. Pay it forward by spreading the word to your community and through social media. Subscribe, listen, and share hundreds of downloadable episodes from wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with and follow us on most social media channels. And we're back, continuing the conversation with James Rhee about maximizing change management through kindness. Let's get back to it. He is the author of Red Helicopter, a parable for our times. Lead change with kindness plus a little math. I think that's the secret sauce recipe for success, James, right there.
I do too, in business and in life.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. It's the quantum.
Yes, it's a wholeness, it's a oneness, right?
Yes. Yes. On so many levels. Can you tell us the story of the red helicopter?
Yeah. So during those times when I was sort of thinking and going back to a different space time and to a simpler place, and it was really triggered by the generosity of the women to me. I was really surprised. I was worried that they wouldn't accept me when I was flying around the country and visiting the stores. And that feeling that I had in my chest, you know that feeling. It's like a
Yes,
feeling of
I
like,
do.
oh, it's really wow. It's been a long time since I had that. I sound like I felt that a lot in private equity and on Wall Street. Yeah, it just their generosity to me reminded me of a time when I was very generous, actually. So yeah, it was kindergarten in the 70s, and I got a toy red helicopter from a family in kindergarten. I came home and my it was a series of like miscommunications, right? They thought I stole it, my parents did from school. You can't do that. And then they said, oh, I said, no, I didn't steal it. A family gave it to me. And then they said, oh, we made a mistake. We didn't know that in America, kindergartners in public school exchange presents and like with each other. And we're sorry that we don't know the local customs. And I said, no, you didn't mess up. Like, not this time. you know, but it turned out I got it because anyway, they found out and they said, and it went like this. I was five, so I don't. They just said, "Why did you share your lunch with your friend?" Because they gave you this helicopter because you've been sharing your lunch. I'm like, why are you sharing your lunch? And again, I thought I was in trouble because maybe we didn't have enough food, or mom woke up early and you're being disrespectful. And I remember being very, like, my face was flushed. I remember, you have to picture a bowl cut Asian face,
Yeah.
and me being a little bit scared, actually. But saying he didn't have any.
Yeah.
And my dad, I thought I was going to get, like, anyway, but it's one of the few times I think it's a recurring theme also in the book that I think a lot of men sometimes have a hard time communicating with one another about feelings. But I could see my dad was very emotional, and
Yeah.
he was like, I'm not mad at you. Like, I'm really proud of you. Like, and he doesn't have lunch because the daddy that gave you the helicopter with the two kids that came with him, your friend, the youngest kid of four kids, his mommy died this summer.
Wow.
So that's why he doesn't have lunch. Did you know that? I said, no, I didn't know that. And I just remember that feeling, and again in my chest, I was like, oh, that's why they gave it to me. And it felt good. It was like a good feeling. And it's to this day the best gift anyone's ever given me, ever. And it just, that it's a symbol of a lot of things, of right, that red helicopter. It's generosity, it's kindness, it's mutualism, it's reciprocity. It's also like there's a Korean word called chang that it's a symbol of. Like in my TED talk, I talk about goodwill, but in Korean it's called chang. There's no literal definition. It's a story or a relationship or an object where it's alive. It's alive. The
Yeah.
connectedness is alive. It's really just like the peak of humanity that no artificial intelligence will ever be able to replicate.
Like agape,
So
like agape
yes,
love.
yes, that's exactly. Or like I think like Ubuntu, right? Or language is so important that it's hard to. I tend to communicate these very difficult to convey in words feelings through music. That's sort of how I do it. But that's what Red Helicopter stands for. So if you listen to the TED Talk again, it really what I'm saying, if it were in Korean, I would be saying chang, not
Yeah.
goodwill. And when people ask me what's goodwill, James, I often say to them, that is the best example I can give you is the end of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
That feeling that all these people came and what they did for him, and because of all the things he did, and that Mary helped him see his life and said, "You have so much goodwill." And that's the premise of what I teach in finance stuff too, right? See, in that movie too, goodwill had monetary value. People came.
I want to toot your horn a little bit more because you do teach currently, right, at Howard University, at MIT, Sloan School of Management, and Duke Law. So that part of you to give back and to teach and to mentor and shepherd is so much about who you are, your essence.
Yeah, I'll always be a teacher. But like again, I think good teachers also know that they learn more from their students than they teach. So, and if you can't teach something, you don't know it. You really don't, right? And so it's been really making sure that I only profess things that has passed the muster. Like if I can convey it to someone else, then I must know it. And so the Howard appointment happened. That's the most emotional of them all. That happened after I had left the company after 7 years, and my mom had died. I took a little bit of time. I needed some time. I just was sort of a little bit. Yeah, I think it's safe to say, like I had like mild depression. Right, my mom just got ripped away from me in 3 weeks from pancreatic cancer, and yeah, she was the most important people. I can't maybe the most important person in my life. I think yes. And so I got a call from Howard, the president of Howard University, and I think most of your listeners know that it's arguably like the most prestigious historically Black university and they asked if I would chair entrepreneurship at Howard University. And I had another one of those warm feelings in my chest. It was another red helicopter moment. And I just said, "Oh my gosh." And I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, really?" And tilting my head and saying, basically, "Are you sure? Like, look, I haven't, I'm Asian." And, when him saying, "Of course, yes, we're sure. We saw what you did. It wasn't what you did, it was how you did it. Like, we saw it in the faces of the women. You can't fake it."
Yeah.
And I had that other feeling again. I just was like, that's a red helicopter moment again. Right. And that's why I'm at Howard still. We just extended my 3-year tenure again. So it's going really well.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt that anything that you decide to touch flourishes because of the approach. That doesn't mean there are not failures or opportunities for learning. I'm not talking about the human part of doing things, but because you're leading with, your heart and with intuition and your head and math and doing the right thing, it's kind of the recipe for success. At least what I'm finding at this
Yeah.
point in my life.
In the definition of success, that's the most important. Like the broadest sense of success is what I'm looking for. Like for my life, particularly so that my children are very proud of their father and my wife's proud of her husband. Like I want that success. And there's been, like I've had financial success, and that's no one should be ashamed about talking about that. That's part of success, but I think it's not a primary pursuit. It's like I say, it's enough.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a cajillionaire, billion. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather while we're walking for everyone to benefit while it's happening, so that no one has to a lot of people try to accumulate quote success and then they want to give back. But the path to having that success, they've obliterated, like they've obliterated things, and then they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, now
In
I'm
their
gonna give it
wake,
back."
like
In their
things,
wake,
yes.
it's destroyed things, and then they say, "Oh, here's some philanthropy. And by the way, I want you to kiss the ring and tell me how great I am to give you philanthropy."
So it's a sort of an absolution methodology. And I think what you're talking about is raising all ships. Like,
Yeah.
Like
And the journey
we're in
being
it. We're in
even
the
more,
boat together.
yes, and the journey being even more important than the end result. That it's that, if you wouldn't like my dad, who always thought that he wasn't quote successful. He immigrated. He was a pediatrician, set up his own little shingled office, and didn't speak the language. And I can't even imagine. I'm an entrepreneur, but that's even ridiculous. That's like uber entrepreneurship, right? And I just remember he would always say to me, "Oh, if I'd stayed in Korea, it would have been easier." And James, it's good that you're quote having success. But I just want to. Can I read something like?
I was hoping that you would.
Yeah, and so
from
this
the
is
red helicopter.
from the Red Helicopter book. This is after my father passes away, in a chapter that it will be very difficult for you to get through. Like, I'm just telling you.
I'm pre-tearing, actually.
I still can't get through without tearing up. And I've read it, I don't know how many times. This was after my dad died and after the women at the company came and hugged my mother at my dad's wake and said, "Hey, Mrs. Rhee, you did a good job with your son." That moment. And so I'm burying my father. And then this is I collected these letters that his patients sent him over the years. And I included a few of them in the book. And so this is one of them from my dad's patient. I'm 42 years old and 3,000 miles away, and I can still smell Dr. Rhee and feel his soft face while hugging me. As a little girl, I distinctly remember feeling like he was the gentlest, calmest man on the planet. He always made me feel at ease. He brought calm and grace into the room, and I've never met his equal. I am truly sorry to learn he is gone. He was very loved.
Ugh.
That's success.
That
He
is
took care of
success.
so many children. He did so many decent things for so many families, and he never asked for credit. And he didn't think that was. I get very much like he didn't think it was. He thought all my financials, like the private, was more successful. And I think that finally, with the work I did in my 40s and what I'm doing now, I feel like I am doing comparable level work to my father. Does that make sense? Like, I feel
Yes.
like I feel like I can one day see him again and say, "Dad, like we can have a real conversation about contributions to humanity and what success is." I didn't feel that way in my 30s.
Well, I think as we age, we hope to get to that place where we see the value in that form of servant leadership, right? It's about not what you get from a situation, but what you can give to it.
Yeah. And if you surround yourself with the right people, and I'm really optimistic of, like, people really, they want to. Everyone's so tired these days, right? They know. People know that things are a little bit askew. They know.
Yes.
Right? Despite all the, the bravado outside, and like deep down, people know. And I'm with a lot of different peoples right now, right? Across the world, across the country too. But yeah, like the right people, they will reciprocate, but it's not transactional. They just will. They will.
I think you make a good point about people generally wanting to help other people. I do think that is a default setting of humanity, thankfully.
It is. It is. And we're selfish, and we're insecure, but I've been always not amazed, but just like enriched and like joyful seeing people do the right thing. They do.
Yeah.
They do. And I'm optimistic about it. Like, they do it despite the fact that almost every possible kind of system we have is nudging people to not do it. Right? Tech, money, media, the messaging, and yet still people do it. So there's a real proclivity to do these things. Like,
yeah, it is a primal drive because we do want that connection. I mean, we are really driven by that, right? As Brene Brown says, right?
And look at this. Look at how sad. I mean, I think that these happiness statistics, and I think they just came out
Oh, the
recently.
latest report about young people?
Yeah, the young
Heartbreaking.
people. It's heartbreaking. It's like biblical level despair,
Yeah.
right? Because young people are so intuitive still. They know. I mean, they're looking at older people and the young people. I'm immersed with young people right now, and they're like, "What a joke!" Like, how many leaders do we have to look up to?
Right.
So don't tell us what to do. Like, you're all acting like children.
And the young people, I think, are doing a better job of managing, on certain levels. I mean, social media aside, they their values in the young people that I talk with, and I have young adults. I don't know how old your children are, but their value system is grounded in the right place, is what I'm seeing.
I think so too. I think that I'm not going to ask you your age, but
Oh,
I
you
will.
can.
I will volunteer mine. I'm Gen X. I'll just say I'm solid Gen X, 53 years old, right? And I think that this is an interesting generation because I'm going to say we, because I think you're not, you're
No,
right.
no, no, no. I'm older. I'm going to be celebrating the big 6-0 in July. I can't believe it, but that's what my driver's license and my passport tells me. And I am very hopeful about younger people because this world is in their hands, and I trust they're going to do the right thing. I just trust.
I do too, if we let them, right?
Yes.
If we let them.
If we let them. Well, if we put our egos away.
Yeah. And I think, for like the Gen X, this forgotten generation, I think, what is it like? Your Gen X, it's like 40 million of us or something. It's like we remember it's both, right? It's analog and digital worlds
Yeah.
it's a both. And I think that this gen it usually gets skipped over, but there's a real role for this generation to lead in a balanced way. I do.
Which is what we need. And with kindness and with the math,
Yeah.
to take a red helicopter approach to leadership and to change.
Yeah, with the calm change, what I teach in the classrooms, but also like in boardrooms, you talk about this a lot. I was preparing for this, just to meet you, and like so much of the trope matters. Like, so I tell young people and CEOs, I was like, stop. First of all, kindness is not weak, and here's all the readings. Here's all the like 18th century readings. I'm pretty sure also if you're a spiritual person, I'm pretty sure kindness is the foundation of a lot of religions. And there is wrath in, like, it's not weak, right? There's a force in it.
Oh, behind kindness?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's accountability. Like if you're,
Yes.
there's not, this is not a free lunch. It's
Yeah.
not. But the other thing I sort of then reframe, I also say in math, like, let's be really clear about this. Math is is part of nature. We discover math. Math is physics.
Yes.
You can't control math, and because people equate math these days with like money, right? Finance. It's not. Math
No.
is a science. Like it's
A science, a system,
a language.
a language, a pattern,
Yeah,
a pattern
that's
language.
true. That's just true, and that it's
Yeah.
true whether or not there are human beings on Earth or not. It is
Yes.
0 is 0, 1 is 1. It just will be. And then the other thing I try to, help with reframing of this, and in addition to the helicopter as a symbol of generosity and kindness, the whole book, it weaves the trope of a helicopter. I would rather have someone told me that, James, we want to prepare you to have the agility and agency of a helicopter.
Yeah.
That you can fly in 6 different directions. You can land and not crash, right? You can take off vertically without a big runway. So if you think about the world we're going to live in, and we live in, we need really emotionally and professionally agile people, and then a plane, which is sort of the paradigm metaphorically for success that we tend to teach people. I'm like, I don't want to fly in one direction and be the strongest and fly the highest. Like, I'd rather be agile, right? I'd rather have that.
Well, and with that agility, using the helicopter metaphor is the ability to have both a macro and a micro view of any situation, right? To move in and out, like with the lens of a telescope.
I love that. Yes. And then, after we get off this, conversation, like, it'd be cool if you went, you can find it on my website. So you can download the chapters of the book, each have a helicopter part.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you assemble one.
You can assemble it.
Yeah. And so, like, what I explain is that, like, in the diagrams, like, the body of the helicopter, that's your life. And then that's life. And then the top of it, the top prop is joy. And then the rear prop is money. And so the book is structured life, money, joy. And what I'm trying to sort of convey is that with the physics of a helicopter, you always have to balance because of Newton's third law. There's always the rear prop physically has to offset the torque created by the pistons that fuel the top prop. So you have to fly in balance constantly. So you can't only live for joy. I mean, you have to eat. And if you want to just have money and no joy, your helicopter doesn't fly. And so that's...
Yeah, I love that. And joy is actually the byproduct, right? Joy is not a destination. It's what happens along the way, the journey to whatever it is that we are doing and attempting to achieve.
100%. Where were you as, like, my sounding board when I was writing this dumb book? I needed someone.
The next one.
Okay, next one I have someone
I'll be your reader.
To be a confidant and talk to about. So all these, like, yeah, you got it right away. That's exactly. And then the bridge of the book is called Goodwill. And what I say is that if you fly this right, then the fuel and the glue of your helicopter, it is goodwill. You create, you fly with a lot of people side by side, but you don't have the right to tell people how to fly their own helicopter, right? That's not your job.
James, Rhee, you have left huge goodwill with us today in this space. I am so grateful that you shared part of your day with me. We've been talking with author James Rhee. He is the author of Red Helicopter, A Parable for Our Times, Lead Change with Kindness, plus a little math. Don't forget to check out his TED Talk. We'll give that a little plug. You can learn more about the book and James Rhee at redhelicopter.com, on X at I am James Rhee, and on LinkedIn you can find him at James Charles Rhee. Come back anytime. Seriously. Thanks for joining us on Harvesting Happiness. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen on behalf of my guest, James Rhee, wishing you kind thoughts, kinder words, and the kindest of actions. Until next time, remember, happiness is an inside job. Happiness is your inside job. Please go out and rock your day, and remember to be kind to one another. Want to take a deeper dive into sound ideas for better well-being? Check out our new bonus edition content, More Mental Fitness by Harvesting Happiness, available exclusively on Medium and Substack. Keep harvesting your own happiness anytime, anywhere from the comfort of wherever you are. Subscribe, listen, and share hundreds of downloadable episodes from wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with and follow us on most social media channels. To learn more about lifestyle management and mental fitness consulting services, please visit harvestinghappiness.com. Harvesting Happiness and More Mental Fitness are produced by me, Lisa Cypers Kamen, Andrea Mengele, Robin Boyd, Andrea Daly, and the awesome team at Podfly Productions, including Eric Begay, Kimberly Beck, and Alec Guess, in collaboration with TogiNet Radio, KBUU, RadioMalibu.net, and is available on PRX, the Public Radio Exchange.